I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features through our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE, symbol CRL, and the Pink, symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor for WeissGroup.com. Welcome back to the show, Sean.
Thanks very much for having me on.
I don't want to use puns, but marijuana stocks soaring higher?
Yes, they are. One of my stocks is up 25% just today alone. Another one's up 17%. Well, I actually have, this is in my Supercycle investor portfolio. I have 4 pot stocks in there, which I call the 4 horsemen of the potpocalypse, simply because if I called them the Fantastic Chronic 4, Marvel would probably sue me. It's really weird that for an organization that started with comic books, they have no sense of humor. But, I'm sure you can pick marijuana stocks that are going down now, but it's not that hard to pick ones that are going up and going up in a big way because, as you well know, we have legalization looming up in Canada, recreational legalization. And so people are getting positioned in front of that to really make the most of that when that happens. Now, it's not just pot stocks, by the way. There's a company in the U.S. called New Age Beverages Corporation, symbol NBEV, on the NASDAQ. That's up 58% today. More than Tilray, because what's happening there is they do make drinks infused with cannabis, and so, people see the opportunity there. And so now what everyone's going to be looking for is the next drink company that could possibly do something with cannabis and stuff like that, because they know companies like Coca-Cola are interested. We already know Constellation Brands is interested in that. Coors is definitely after it. So people see this opportunity and they just want a piece of it. And so now we did have some news last week on Friday that sent the cannabis sector skidding lower, and that is that the U.S. Customs Agency is going to start scrutinizing Canadians coming over the border, seeing if they work in the marijuana industry, and also, potentially, though how they would enforce this, seeing if they invest in cannabis stocks, because this has Jeff Sessions' hands all over it. I mean, obviously, the guy is our U.S. Attorney General, and apparently he doesn't have big enough problems because he is obsessed with marijuana and just hates the fact that it's legalizing all over the place. So that sent stocks skidding, and we might have more bad news in that area if that's actually enforced. I think it would be unenforceable, and so we'll have to see how it goes. So there could be more downside surprises in the cannabis sector going forward, but I think those would be opportunities to add because at least, into early October, we should be on quite the run here. Now, after legalization, we could have another sell-off. And that actually might happen before legalization because things are often anticipated. So, unless you're holding for the very long term, you'll probably want to be out before legalization, but you can have an excellent run before that.
Right, and of course, in Canada, edibles aren't included in the first year of the legislation, but likely will in the future.
Which is crazy. I know, that is so nuts, which is fine. That's another opportunity in the U.S. because, there's some nice companies down here that are going to do pot-based edibles, and so maybe they'll have the leap on Canada. But yes, around next year, then we'll see probably that legalized in Canada. Really, it seems, I'm not sure what the governments are afraid of, because it's not like there aren't worse, I keep saying worse substances that are legal. For example, alcohol. I mean, alcohol is terrible for you in many respects. And it can poison you, and it can poison babies, and all that stuff. And so, but it's legal. It's, handled, and they aren't afraid of it. I'm not sure why they're so afraid of pot. Nonetheless, their hesitancy is what gives early investors the advantage. Because as long as the governments, both north of the border and south, are really kind of iffy with this whole thing, the big companies are very hesitant about investing. And so that means you as an early investor can get in ahead of them and hope that the law changes in your favor.
Well, you hear so many of the politicians in Canada, it's like they expect riots in the streets and public mayhem. Washington State, California, Oregon, when they legalized, life was exactly the same the very next day.
Exactly. Let me tell you, I'm drinking some nice coffee. It is from Tanzania, and it's fantastic coffee. And yet, you could make a case that caffeine should be illegal if you wanted to, because there are many adverse things if you have too much caffeine. It adversely affects you. So I'm not sure why cannabis has this, weird pariah status, except that it's always had it. So once that old bugaboo goes away, things should change quite a bit and should be good news for investors who can actually, move in ahead of that.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp., RMO, on the TSX Venture Exchange. Rainy Mountain Royalty Corp. is a Canadian-based mineral exploration project generator. The company currently holds multiple property interests in Ontario with joint venture partners and is seeking further joint venture partners for other drill-ready properties in our portfolio. For more information, please visit our website at rmroyalty.com or call me at 604-922-2030.
Cypress Development Corp's flagship lithium project is located just east of Alva Marley's Silver Peak mine in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. A 12-hole exploration drill program for lithium-enriched claystone on Cypress's 100% controlled properties is now underway. Cypress Development Corp trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the pink CYDVF, and on Frankfurt's C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, what's happening with gold?
Well, I can tell you what's happening in our portfolios with gold. Some very, very nice things. Now, I called a bottom in gold a couple weeks ago. Might be a few weeks ago at this point. And sure enough, gold hasn't gone down below that. That does not mean that gold can't go down and revisit that level. But finally, we are starting to see what we needed to see in this market, which is the actual mining stocks start to lead the metal. The better mining stocks, anyway. They are leading the metal higher. And that's what you want to see in a bull market. You want to see those mining stocks start to move ahead of where the metal is going to go. And so I'm actually quite bullish. I gave my subscribers a new position this week. I'm probably going to add more because there are so many things out there that have been beaten down with a shovel and look dirt cheap that are actually mining companies. They are producing companies. They have cash flow. It's just crazy that they're valued at this level. So I don't expect that craziness to last forever. So I'm just going to hop in ahead of that.
Any particular areas that have been hot?
Well, I could share a secret with you that I've only shared with my subscribers, but why not? I mean, it's only you, me, and like 10,000 listeners, right? But here's the thing. South African mining stocks are super cheap. And like, people listening to this podcast now will say, he said South Africa, I'm going to tune out. But hear me out. South African miners are really diversifying quite a bit. I hate to use any specific names, but if you looked at the portfolios of mines they own, they are moving rapidly to make what their business is in South Africa a smaller and smaller minority of their actual production, because they can see the writing on the wall as well. And so that means when you have these companies that are producing miners with cash flow trading at a discount to book value, that's just craziness. that's why we're starting to take positions in there, and we're probably going to take more of them because these things are cheap and they should not stay that way, especially if the price of gold goes higher, which, as I said, I just called the bottom a few weeks ago. I think that's going to happen, and we are going to see the price go higher, which, like rising tide lifts all boats, but some boats are going to go higher than others, and those producing miners trading at steep discounts can do extraordinarily well.
We also have the discovery of not gold nuggets, but gold boulders in Australia. Is that doing anything with the gold space there?
Well, it certainly helped the stock Royal Nickel that owns that one, and I actually wrote a column about it because I had to look into it. And there are ways to play that which don't include Royal Nickel stock, which is just, after it jumped and then jumped again, it's been flat since then, which is not too surprising because that company actually wants to sell that mine. But Australia is a place where some really amazing discoveries are being done lately. Big, nuggety finds. That's what they're finding down there. And so as you look at other mining companies, you might want to compare them to, these finds being done in Australia. How are they going to compete with that? Because that's a question many miners will have to answer. It looks to me like Australia's on the brink of a new big gold rush. So I'm watching that area with close interest.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, is crude going to break out from the $70 a barrel limit?
It sure looks like it. And this is, of course, the price of U.S. crude. Other crudes have their own price dynamics, but right now it looks like yes, U.S. crude oil is going to break out. We've had slumping supplies in the U.S. for a few weeks now. Part of this is because we keep exporting more and more of it. The other part is because there aren't enough pipelines to actually get the oil out of the Permian, for example, and stuff like that. So there's a crimp on it there. And so whether your company does well might actually really leverage to whether it can get the oil not only out of the ground, but then out of the field where it pumped that. Does it have enough pipeline access to actually do this? There are companies that have plenty of pipeline access that are raising production, that have great management, that should do really well. Saudi Arabia has said, by the way, they are comfortable with oil over $80 a barrel. They're okay with that. So that's at least another $10. And who knows what we'll actually see with the price, because things always overshoot on the upside. Could it go to 100? Could it go even higher? I don't know. But I do know that the easiest path for oil right now, the easiest path is to go higher. And so that means that, you can buy select companies that have things that I've talked to you about in the past, that have improving operating margins, that are increasing their production quarter over quarter, that have great management, that have all these things, that are in the right oil patches, and that have pipeline access. If they have these things, they could do extraordinarily well going forward.
Has the tech sector taken a beating, and has money from tech gone into other things like defense contracts or financials?
Well, there are some tech stocks that deserve to be beaten like a red-headed stepchild, and I say that as a former redhead. But, it all depends. I have some tech stocks, especially my drone stocks, that are doing extraordinarily well. And they should probably continue to do well. What I think people should look at is the underlying trends. Like if you're investing in a stock that's really helping out in the electronic payment trend, well, that's a growing trend. That's a trend where you have companies that can make more and more money. If they're invested in, say, cybersecurity, that's another one that's red hot. But if they're in a business where there's a lot of competition and low barriers to entry, then things could get problematic for them. You know, I don't tend to look at what happens in tech as one big monolith, because it isn't monolithic. For one thing, does your tech company depend on like selling cheap stuff from China? Well, thanks to the trade wars, the stuff from China might not be so cheap anymore, and that could really impact their bottom line. So you have to look at them individually, but I still think there are great opportunities in tech, yes.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
I always have a great time. Thanks for having me on.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor for WeissGroup.com. If you have any questions for Sean or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.